This is Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WyoRadio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. And now, Dateline Wyoming.
This is your Dateline host, Tom Ellis. The second of our two-part Dateline series on Title 25 continues today as we speak with State Senator John Hastert, followed by comments from Sweetwater County Sheriff Mike Lowell and Ron Cheese of Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County. Following this message from our sponsor, Northern Title Company, good deeds done daily.
Remember when your word and a handshake sealed the deal?
Those were the days.
It's just not the same anymore, but Northern Title Company exemplifies professionalism and old-school customer service. You have a choice when it comes to title work. Northern Title makes it simple for you. They know how important it is to have everything in order. Walk away with confidence knowing Marianne and her staff have completed your title work thoroughly. Visit Northern Title Company, 2620 Commercial Way. Good deeds done daily.
Senator Hastert, welcome to Dateline Wyoming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Today, what we want to do is take a look at Title 25 and maybe talk a little bit about the legislative side of this whole issue.
We've had the Title 25 for quite a few years, and in the last couple of years, we've had a spike in the number of involuntary placements, and it created quite a shortfall to the budget of the Department of Health, to where we, as a legislature, had to address the issues that the department was facing, primarily in, I think it's Natrona County, Sweetwater County, the main drivers in the increased numbers, and trying to get a handle on why that's happened, what's created, like I think it's been like a $13 million shortfall in the Department of Health's budget. In the last year, the legislature passed Senate File 58, which tried to offer relief to the communities, and there's still a lot of work to be done.
When it's all said and done, there are just a lot of different agencies that are involved in this situation, aren't there?
Absolutely. You have the Department of Health, you have the county commissioners, you have, and this is, I'm speaking, some of this I'll speak locally primarily, is, Southwest Counseling, the county attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and of course the hospital. And the hospital is impacted quite a bit by Title 25 issues.
This comes at a time when all budgets are really being impacted by the downturn in the economy.
We're looking at budget shortfalls, $150+ million right now. And so we're going to be faced with the projections into the future of a continued downturn and trying to find the resources. And so fully funding and finding the resources for Title 25 will be an even bigger challenge.
Walk us through exactly how Title 25 comes into play in a particular situation.
If a person is deemed a hazard to themselves or others, they can be involuntarily held at, let's say, the hospital. And from there, the first 72 hours is on the county's dime. They have a hearing with one of the local judges, and I know that Judge James primarily does Title 25 issues. She will make the determination that they do need to be held. And normally they would need to be held at the state hospital, but unfortunately the state hospital is always full, and so we have to provide other resources, and so they can be held here locally for that 72 hours. And then once they're past the 72 hours, there's another hearing, and then it's determined whether they are actually a threat to themselves or others and require treatment, and then they need to be sent to the state hospital or another facility, a designated hospital. The problem that we're facing here in Sweetwater County is that individuals come in, and there's a greater number identified, and they're held at the hospital for the first 72 hours, and then they're supposed to be moved on to get the treatment they require. But with the state hospital full or other facilities full, transportation being an issue, then they're kind of stuck at the hospital. And the problem there is the hospital's not licensed as a psych facility, so they're not getting any kind of treatment. They're holding up beds that the hospital desperately needs for urgent care, And then the individual is suffering because they're not being able to get the services that they need because the hospital, our local hospital, isn't licensed for psych eval.
So we've got issues on a lot of different levels. There's funding, there's the organization of the entire system, and then there's the facilities and resources that are necessary to back that all up and make the thing work.
It impacts the county commissioners and their budget, the county attorneys, law enforcement, and the hospital especially. The hospital, it's costing the hospital hundreds of thousands of dollars for their portion of the Title 25, if not more. The state has to pick up the cost of this and then figure out what needs to be done. The title calls for an out-of-state compact director. That has not really been utilized with the Department of Health. If we were to have a compact director in the state and utilizing out-of-state resources, that we could save a lot of entities, including the state, a lot of money. Right now, the Department of Health is using the director of the state hospital. They're saturated with their duties already. We really need to identify an individual as an out-of-state compact director. We have agreements with the University of Utah, and we would be able to ship the patients to the University of Utah and save the county, and I believe the state, quite a bit of money, and especially the hospital. But the biggest thing there is that the individual that needs to be treated would get the treatment they need in a timely manner instead of sitting for maybe days or weeks without getting any kind of treatment and the help they need. I think the frustration that Title 25 committee is finding is that it doesn't seem to be some good, solid statewide answers. In Sweetwater County, we're going to have to find Sweetwater County solutions as they're doing in Natrona County. They're finding Natrona County solutions. And I think that a lot of the solutions will be better resolved on a county level. And I can tell you that I believe we've taken a first great step in doing that. Judge James called a meeting with all of the entities involved with Title 25. And she had herself as the judiciary, she had the hospital, she had the county commissioners, she had county attorneys there, and Southwest Counseling, and everybody in the same room discussing the issues and finding out some of the facts and myths that each entity was facing, and having some discussions. And of course, we had the Department of Health and myself at the meeting. And with all of those entities together, from that's where Southwest Counseling agreed to do the gatekeeper. The hospital was able to, I think, clarify the problems that they were facing and clear up some misunderstandings. I think the judiciary was able to do the same, and the Department of Health was able to listen and hear all of the different concerns and has committed to returning for additional meetings. And I think the first great step, once you get everybody together that's involved talking, then solutions can be found. So I really was very grateful to Judge James, I think, for initiating the meeting and having everybody there by helping us with this compact director and helping us with out-of-state placement. And I think we can help ourselves locally by having the discussions and then working towards better solutions. It's really important for the local entities to be working together and communicating together, and I think that we're going to find some answers.
In your opinion, the out-of-state coordinator would be a major step forward.
I always go back to the fact that the individual is not getting the help they need. And if we can get them moved on to a facility that could provide medications, provide whatever treatment they need, their road to recovery is a lot faster.
Any final thoughts on Title 25?
It's a very complex issue. I think that it's going to take a little bit more time to really resolve it. And as I stated earlier, I think the solutions are going to be more county-born and the ability to transport out of state. We're going to be two big things to help.
Our guest has been Senator John Hastert, representing Senate District 13 here in Sweetwater County. Senator, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking on this very difficult, complex issue.
Dateline continues after this message from our sponsor, Northern Title Company. Good deeds done daily.
When you buy or sell a house or property, you have a choice in real estate agents. When you're ready to close on that real estate transaction, you also have a choice in your closing company. Northern Title has been servicing Sweetwater County for many years. Their experience can make your closing time quick and hassle-free. So tell your real estate agent your choice at closing time is Northern Title. 2620 Commercial Way, Rock Springs. Good deeds done daily. Northern Title.
Dateline continues with Sweetwater County Sheriff Mike Lowell. Our topic of discussion is Title 25, and we have with us Sweetwater County Sheriff Mike Lowell. Mike, why don't you just give us a little information on how Title 25 impacts the Sheriff's Department?
Title 25, of course, applies to us the same as it would apply to municipal police officers. If we encounter someone on the outside on the road and they are exhibiting some kind of behavior that causes us to have concern for them, we make the stop in the preliminary interviews. And if they meet the criteria to be taken to Sweetwater Memorial for their evaluation. Very few people know that also inside our detention facility with incarcerated persons, we also have that same responsibility. So if you're inside and a person on one of the modules displays some kind of behavior or emotional outburst that would cause you some concern, you have the obligation to then apply the same steps to them. The difference being inside, we have our own medical staff. And of course, we have the ability to observe and report and to see if that person would benefit from a Title 25 hearing.
Logistically, how does that affect your operation?
Title 25 is evolving. The direction it's going, I really don't have a clear picture of. With the economic situation, I'm not really clear whether it's an expense issue or a treatment issue or how we're going to handle it and what. I'm a little concerned at what's going to happen in the end. You know, we also hold prisoners who have been sentenced for mental health evaluations that as part of the crime they committed, and those we have inside our facility all for sometimes for an extraordinary length of time, 50, 60 days, before they're assigned to a mental health facility or before there's an opening in the appropriate mental health facility to have that kind of evaluation. The other issue with Title 25 is there's a hearing involved, and the Court Security Act requires that the sheriff be with the judge anytime court's in session. Court in session is taken to mean wherever the judge is at. So if the judge holds a hearing in a small room, we're there. The judge holds that hearing at the hospital, we're there. The judge holds that in a second bathroom, we're there. We simply have to be there, so we appropriate the additional manpower. Normally, those hearings will occur at the end of the business day. So at 5 o'clock, you may see Judge James holding hearings in the appropriate location regarding Title 25, which we're required to send our people to.
The state is supposed to start picking up expenses after 72 hours. How does that work?
If you send a person from the hospital to an appropriate institution as a result of a Title 25 hearing, he's going to go somewhere. He's going to go to Casper or someplace else where he's going to be further evaluated. Within that first 72 hours, I'm going to be, somebody's required to pick him up if they release him. It's not unusual for a person to go to a facility on a Monday, and on a Tuesday, we'll get a call to come and pick him up. He's ready to go. So whatever mental health issue has gone, and so that role is also unclear.
So you're also responsible for transportation issues as well.
The county has a contract with the ambulance service to provide transport for mental health patients to facilities, and there are a number of reasons. One, there's a contract. Two, if you're taking any kind of medication, then they provide the appropriate level EMT or paramedic care to take you. We haven't been involved in much of those. Sheriffs across the state roll vans all the time that are prisoners being transported to other agencies, coming from other agencies, or in the midst of a transportation to a prison or something like that. So we do that consistently. So it would seem to me that would be something that should be looked at. The other thing is, if you follow the economic issues, it's not unusual for me to receive a letter or a text or an email from a state agency telling me what they're not going to do based on the economic output. The inference being that I'm supposed to pick up whatever detail or business we were doing with them in some other form, which of course becomes pretty difficult for me because our budgets run so tight that you don't have the leeway to be moving monies around to rob Peter to pay Paul. In the addition, if you look at the current state of thinking, it almost becomes a concern to us that the budgets are increasing. And if you take the county budget, the past 4 years it's gone from $400 to almost $1 million. So there is some cost significance. If they're not going to take care of it or going to lower the cost, then everybody begins to look at where can we put mental health issues. And the obvious inference is if you look at the Sheriff's Detention Center, that you could end up having people in your facility that you're not appropriately trained to deal with. With the input of my staff on this issue, we have developed a training scenario, and we just held the first class with Laura Schmidt-Pizzato from Southwest Counseling in anticipation of how should we be able to more effectively deal with the mentally ill. Are there programs that we can provide with Southwest Counseling in our facility, which we're going to do. And so I think I anticipate that something like that's going to happen. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it doesn't make it any less my responsibility to try to do something.
Would it be fair to say that you feel that the legislature needs to tighten the program up?
I think that somebody has to become responsible for mental health. I often think that the waiting period for a person in my facility to be evaluated outside of Title 25 is significantly longer than it has to be. We're constantly faced with the struggle to find a bed to put that person into treatment to begin. I don't think your mental health is being helped by you sitting in a detention facility at a local jurisdiction while somebody tries to maintain this optimum level of bed space at another facility. In the absence of clear direction, I don't know what the budgets are going to be. I don't know what the restructure is going to be. I don't know if law enforcement is going to be involved in the transport, although I feel like we can do it at a significantly less cost. Not that I want to do it, but I think I can do it. Are the additional burdens of housing people with mental health issues going to be placed on the sheriff at the local level?
Sheriff Mike Lowell with us today talking about Title 25. Sheriff, thanks for coming in. Dateline continues as we discuss the impact of Title 25 on Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County with Ron Shees, Director of Patient Financial Services. Ron, give us an idea of the impact of Title 25 on Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County.
The impact to the hospital is actually very tremendous. The growth in Title 25 patients from 2014 to 2017, it just continues to climb. In 2014, we had 91 Title 25 patients that had a total of 405 patient days with an average length of stay of 3.8 days. In fiscal year 2016, that grew from 91 in 2014 to 171 admits for a total of 1,145 patient days with the average length of stay growing to 5.9. In fiscal year 2017, we project 180 admits at 1,521 patient days with an average length of stay at 8.45 days. Where that becomes an issue for the county and the state is that the Title 25 law actually breaks out responsibilities for the county and the state as far as who has responsibility for paying. The county is responsible for paying for the first 72 hours in addition to any Saturday or Sunday or legal holiday that falls within the 72 hours pursuant to Wyoming Statute 25-10-109, including the costs of any medical treatment that is associated with that Title 25 visit. The state then is responsible for picking up the cost of any additional time greater than that 72 hours. Where it becomes difficult for the state, they've chosen not to build facilities to be able to house these patients. And so when they come to our facility, there's no place for them to go, with the exception of staying in our hospital, because there are no rooms in Evanston, and we have to house those patients until there becomes a room available in Evanston at the Wyoming State Hospital. The other place that we look for rooms is a place, I believe it's in Casper, called WBI. The majority of the costs that are associated with a Title 25 patient take place in the first 72 hours, because if the patient hurts himself tremendously during this time, the medical costs to put him back together, that becomes the liability of the county. After that 72 hours, usually the surgeries are done and that kind of thing, and then we're looking at taking care of the patient and housing them until a room can become available.
So you actually have responsibility for physical as well as mental issues with a patient.
That's correct. And the county becomes responsible to take care of those medical costs. After we go after the insurance or entitlement programs, the county is responsible for that. So we actually pursue those entities before we send a bill to the county. The law actually changed in July. Prior to this last July, we were responsible to pursue payment from insurance companies, entitlement programs, and the patient. But as of July 1 of this year, they removed pursuing the patient. They have us go after insurance companies and entitlement programs. And then we send the bill to the county and the state. We have to break it out. The first 72 hours of all of that care goes to the county, and anything over that 72 hours goes to the state. Right now, the state comes in and they pay us, I think it's $677 per day for each day that they stay with us. I'm sure that's a lot cheaper than building a facility, that kind of thing, to house these patients in. in any case, the state has no place to place these patients, and that is the burden for the hospital.
So it's a matter of a lack of facilities and beds that it's also exacerbating the whole problem.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what is causing. When I was talking about how the average length of stay in 2014 was 3.8 days, and it has grown now in fiscal year 2016 to 5.9 days, and fiscal year 17 we're projecting 8.45 days. It's because there are so many patients that the state has no place to put them, and that is what places the burden on the hospital, on the county, and the state.
How can we address the problem? I understand Judge James had gotten some people together and had talked about the situation. Senator Hastert has a proposal that making use of out-of-state facilities is an area that needs to be investigated and needs to have somebody in charge of that so that, we can make use of those facilities. Where does that leave Memorial Hospital then?
Right now, the burden has been that we haven't been able to collect from the county or the state. I know that the hospital board of trustees have a meeting set up to work with John Kolb and county commissioners. There's some discussion about what exactly are the costs that are associated with taking care of these patients. To the hospital, it costs us more than the $677 per day to take care of these patients. We have had to hire 9 FTEs of behavioral health techs to the tune of just under $500,000 to just watch these patients and to try to take care of them. The burden right now has been on the hospital because we haven't had a lot of payment from the county. We have had only the $677 from the state. And so right now the hospital is the one with all the skin in the game. Judge James's meeting, I wasn't a part of that, but I have heard only wonderful things about where they started to go with that. I hope that those meetings continue because somebody has to take care of these patients. The way that the state is set up, there's no place for them to go. What we're trying to do is to do the right thing for the county residents to take care of these people. Another problem for the hospital is that if all of our beds are full of these types of patients, then we have to turn medical patients away. And we're not a psychiatric facility, we're a medical facility. And we're just doing the best that we can to take care of these patients. But there comes a point where these types of patients have grown so much and they take up so many of our beds that it actually is bad for the health care, for the medical side, because we don't have beds to take care of our patients.
You have limited resources in that area as far as what you can actually do.
Yes, sir, we do.
Senator Hastert also has indicated that he thinks the real solution on this problem needs to come from within each county rather than something coming down from the state as far as how we can handle it and what we can do to address the needs.
I personally would disagree with that. It really is the state level that is the answer to this question. The county is doing what they can do to try to help, but their funding is limited, especially with the tax base right now in Sweetwater County. The problem really is at the state level not having enough beds to take care of these people once they have been titled under the Title 25. It's those patients, and so many of those patients, that cause the problem of housing them. The state does not have enough beds. They used to have many more beds with the state hospital, but they've elected to let a lot of those go and not have the resources to be able to provide the nursing care and that kind of thing that's associated with that. Right now, Memorial Hospital has taken that on for not just Sweetwater County, but we've actually had patients that come from other counties, other states, that end up in our facility. If they're from another state, the state of Wyoming actually pays us for that. The county's not responsible for that. Anybody that's a Sweetwater County resident that's titled in Sweetwater County, the first 72 hours does become the responsibility of the county. The county has limited resources, the state has limited resources, and that is the problem. In my opinion, the only way that we're going to get out of this is for the state to build facilities to house these patients, because it's growing, and I don't know if it's a combination of the drug problem in America or the alcohol problem that are getting these people into this. There really is just no place to put them. Memorial Hospital has done the best that we can to take care of these patients. We really aren't in the business of housing psychiatric patients. It's been forced upon us, but really someone else should take care of that end.
The same thought that Sheriff Lowell gave me, because in his situation, he ends up being a place where people are staying because of his detention facility. Sweetwater, Fremont, and Atorno County have been listed as the counties that are really having financial problems and have really come to the fore on this issue. Do you have any idea why those 3 counties in particular would be impacted like that?
I think those are the 3 counties that have stepped up and tried to take care of these patients. The rest of the counties, I would be hard-pressed to believe that they're not having exactly the same problem. They're just choosing, I believe, to not take care of those patients. These counties have stepped up to the plate, but it's costing each hospital dearly.
Is the law as it stands adequate to take care of the situation, or does it need more definition?
Definitely needs more definition. The funding is inadequate that they have placed into the budget to take care of these type of patients. They need to address that. They also need to address the number of facilities. We have to take care of these patients because they need the care. But Sweetwater County's, the hospital is a medical facility. It's not a psychiatric facility. The state knows that there is this problem, and it's talked about it briefly, but nobody has really stepped up to the plate to really address this at the state level. It's a funding issue. It's also a facility issue.
Our guest this morning is Ron Cheese from Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County. Final thoughts on where we need to go and what we should do to solve these issues?
I would like to see them be pushed to the state level and things done at the state level. The county really does try to fund what they can of this 72 hours, but with the tax base right now, it's very difficult to take care of that. Ultimately, they're responsible for that first 72 hours, but that places an additional burden on the county. These patients need to be taken care of, but in the correct setting, in the correct facility. And so that's why, in my opinion, the state needs to step up and take care of this by building new facilities and addressing it financially to the places that are trying to do the best that they can do to take care of these patients.
Ron Cheese, Director of Patient Financial Services at Sweetwater County Memorial Hospital. Ron, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
A look at our next Dateline follows this message from our sponsor, Northern Title Company. Good deeds done daily.
Northern Title Company knows that most of us don't like paying capital gains tax every time we buy or sell property. We want to keep what we've worked so hard to acquire, but we may not know how or where to find the answers we need. That's why using Northern Title, an experienced and qualified title company, is the answer. Stop in today at 2620 Commercial Way in Rock Springs. Northern Title Company. Good deeds done daily.
Our guests on Dateline Wyoming this morning have been State Senator John Hastert, Sweetwater County Sheriff Mike Lowell, and Ron Cheese of Memorial Hospital of Sweetwater County. This is your host, Tom Ellis, inviting you to join us Sunday, December 25th on this station at 7 a.m. for a very special Christmas edition of Dateline Wyoming.
You have been listening to Dateline Wyoming with your host, Tom Ellis. Dateline Wyoming is a public affairs presentation of WyoRadio News presented every Sunday at this time, highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or that of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. Audio copies of this program will be available each Monday following the program's airtime on Sunday at youtube.com/WyoRadio.